Voice. Well, hello, everybody. I find that when I hear my voice, it sounds like I'm shouting all the time. So, and I think I am. My daughter said, Mom, you are yelling at me. But I am here with Dominic Santiago, who has become a friend. But more important, he is somebody that I cannot wait for you to listen to this. I want you to stay with it. And then I'm going to tell you why. But I just want you to know that I'm a commercial actress, and I did a commercial, and Dominic did my hair, and he's that kind of a person who knows how to make people beautiful or feel beautiful or make them look nice. And we got to talking, and I told him about my podcast, and Dominic said, I have a podcast. And I said, really, what is it? And do you want to go ahead and talk about it, Dominic? Why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So I have a podcast called Healing Him. And Healing Him is for men of color who just have never really felt safe to express their traumas and emotions and feelings. And I wanted to create a space where that is possible, or just that a space that they can relate to other men and just hear other people's stories, and just a form of like alternative therapy, if it can be, and just eventually, just I would like to go with creating like a way of life in this, and just acknowledging the importance of us tending to our emotional trauma and just everything that we stuff inside, and just society doesn't allow us to be comfortable to speak about or acknowledge, because as men, we have a different responsibility in this world, and it's not to tend to our feelings and
right.
heal our inner peace, or find our inner peace, and heal from the inside. Usually we're taught to just survival tactics and how to just be in the world and not make too much noise, and just live quietly, or like live and don't take up too much space. So I think it's important that we have a space and just inspiration too. It could be as little as just this inspiring other men to start their healing journey. So it's me and my healing journey, and I would like other people to be a part of that, and other guests' healing journey, and just I want it to just spread like a wildfire and inspire people and help someone out there.
It's so important. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but one, how you started it.
Okay.
And why don't we start with what happened? How did you say, and by the way, it's Healing, HEALINGHIM.
Yes.
Healing Him, which is an amazing title, brand, whatever you want. It's great. It
took a few hours, or like more than just a few hours, to figure out what was right. I changed it a lot of times, but
it's great.
I settled on.
And your whole, everything that you did, the logo, it's great. So when did you say, I feel this way, probably. I mean, I'm just imagining, and we've got to reach out to other men.
Right.
How did that all happen?
Well, I know that I've always realized that there was a need for that ever since I was younger. And I just never knew like what I would do about that. But there was always that itch of just wanting to help, and just, I could be at a party and I will be in the corner and just having a deep conversation with someone like that. It's just always attract that kind of energy from people, and people unloading. And so I always knew that I couldn't ignore that, and I wanted to put that into use, and like where it was most beneficial, and where the need was. And I'm not like a professionally trained therapist or counselor or anything like that. This is just something that I just feel like it's important. If anything, I feel like I'm just a mental health advocate, and this is part of mental health and well-being. So I'm not. Well, I started toying with the idea of a podcast like 3 years ago. And I just been trying to figure out exactly what it was. And then it just kind of, one day it just clicked to me that it should be about like my healing journey and helping hopefully to help other men heal too and just start their journey. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then I just been brainstorming for the last 2-3 years and just writing ideas. And then so I finally came up with the name and the concept. And now working on just recording and getting these interviews in and yeah, just getting at all the content for it. But
so you're on Anchor, which is a really smart decision because they do everything for you.
Yeah.
That's a really good decision. So the first podcast that I listened to, you had some guys there. Were there 3 of you?
It was like 4 or 5 of us.
There were.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a panel. And that was just a spur of the moment type thing. Like, oh, we're all here. I want to see how this can go. So you guys, like, are you guys willing to help me do this? And they're very supportive. Those are my friends and one of my cousins. So they were very supportive and jumped on it. And so we did it, and it was just it just naturally flowed into that. So I would like to try to do it like a panel like that again, but that was just a spur of the moment, like a rare time that we were all together and we were able to record. But it ended up being.
I heard like a bus or a thing, and I thought this is so perfect for what they're doing. It should sound like that,
right? Yeah, I was literally like holding the microphone and passing it around.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it turned out good. I was like pleasantly surprised with the content that we had and just the subject matter and how it it just got a lot of people's brains going about their own issues with their fathers. And I think that's something that's not really talked about amongst men. And the effect that their dads have, like when we think of daddy issues, generally we think of like women and girls having daddy issues, not being there, and their toxic relationships with men now and all that. But for men, it's the same. It could be the same thing, especially as gay men. You know, it's something that I haven't really heard too many people talk about. So I thought it was a good idea to start that conversation.
It was so interesting for me. And what else I really loved about it is that everybody was so open, Dominic.
Yeah.
These men bear their years, and you're going to create an environment where people are going to feel comfortable to do that.
I hope so. One thing I did realize is that I need to be more comfortable.
Yeah.
I definitely held back, and the purpose of it is for me to get that healing going too. But it just felt, I realized how much I need to kind of just open up and not direct it towards everyone else.
Yeah, but you've already established something, and that's what you're doing. I mean, you did that. And you listened to those guys, and they listened to you. You made a big step.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt really good. Now I just need to keep on going, and that's what I'm working on now, is just getting more content for people to listen to and just be able to be part of it and tune into these conversations.
So how do you see, I mean, it really does work with guys sitting around talking. I mean, that would be a nice part of it if you had like those kind of meetings or. Right.
So that's kind of what I've been working on now, is just getting the right formula and how to get into that space without the pressure of being recorded or like on the podcast. I think I feel like there was a little hesitation with myself and one of my friends in there, because the microphone could be intimidating for some people, or just knowing that you're being recorded could be intimidating. So it doesn't allow a person to open up really. So I just have been trying to just not slyly just start recording like I'm just going to secretly record, but to just you're here for the podcast and we're going to record, but I'm not going to make it such a big deal of the recording and just casual. I'm going to try to casually make it happen somehow, but because I've found myself having friends over and we're having conversations and we just get into these subjects and I'm just like, I should have been recording this. I should have. So it's gonna, what's happening now is that I'm getting more people to be a little bit more excited about it. But it's just,
well, it's very exciting. And my friend Al, who works a lot with men and in groups, and I was telling him about it, and I sent him your podcast and today, and I'm interested for him to hear it. But rather than people just spilling their guts out, which could be so scary, or so they're holding it in, and rather than that, this is about self-care and
yes,
self-respect.
Yes, most definitely. And a lot of people in general just don't know self-care, or their ideas of self-care are very superficial and like it's not, you can go get your nails done or something like that. That's self-care to an extent, but like people don't really dig too much deeper than the surface level. And I want to be able to like make that, to help with that new wave of making that the norm, and just making people realize that it's necessary. It's necessary and it's needed. And especially for men, I feel like men they're like the natural leaders of the world, and but they're some of the worst people. Where, us men can just be so just jerks. And I think that a lot of that has to do with not being able to heal and not being able to express themselves. So it's just all these bottled up emotions and pent up, and then it just continues they pass it on to their kids, and that toxic masculinity.
These are victims of victims of victims of victims of victims.
Right.
It doesn't make that they were right, because you're calling a halt to it. You're saying that's just not, no. I am
right.
Just because I suffered from it. I mean, I'm just saying, I think what you're doing for men in general, probably.
Yeah, I think it would just be a good, like I said, I didn't want to make it necessarily a race issue, but I think it's just there's a different need and a different stance that men of color have than like a white male and in the world. And I think it's very prevalent right now, and people are not scared to talk about that right now. And it's all over, it's something that we're becoming more comfortable with understanding and talking about. And I think it would also be a good tool for maybe like white men to listen in on and understand their, like their the other men of color, like, and to understand their lives and their stance in the world and how different it is. Or even women, I feel like it'll be a good thing for women to listen in on. And I plan on having some women on the show too, and just like, I really want my mom to come on there, and I want to like expose our relationship and how they're, just how important women are and like for men, and how like that's another issue that I would hope to change, and just the outlook on women and the respect and the power that they have, and just all of that women deserve. But I think there's just so many hurt men out there, and a lot of hurt men that were hurt from women. So there's just a lot of healing that needs to have happened.
There's a lot of healing. I watched the movie on Billie Holiday last night.
Oh yeah, I wanted to see that. How is it?
It's really, 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 I have to say, the woman, and I don't know her name, it doesn't matter. She's amazing. She's
nice.
beyond acting in a role. But it shows, her and men of color who were around her, and how like the police used even the Black guys. And I mean, it's really a fantastic movie, and it's amazing that this kind of stuff actually happens.
Right.
when I watched it, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking how it just needs to be opened up. So how
Yeah.
would you see this happening? You think the podcast is a good start?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is because it just allows me to be in control of what I'm going to put out. And just, I was thinking of doing video, but I think that's even more intimidating for some
Yeah, I
people.
think.
And I wanted it to be able to give an opportunity for the guests to, maybe if they want to be anonymous even, and just not really feel comfortable in exposing who they are, but I want their identity to be exposed. But are there like not their full identity, but as far as like their race, their age, and just to give different backgrounds and different types of men from different generations and cultural identities and stuff. But it doesn't. They don't have to like.
And it's their voice that we haven't heard.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause I was telling one of my friends, he was hesitant, and then we were talking, and we were discussing all these things and I was brought to the attention. Like, wouldn't you have felt like a lot better if you heard someone like yourself when you were younger speaking about problems that they probably have, or that you probably have as well, and just to know that there's someone out there like you, and that kind of helped motivate. So I think that's like one of the important factors in that.
So the age groups for these guys, by the way, can we just give your, I know this is going to come up, your email address for people to contact you?
Yes, it's HEALINGHIM, HEALINGHIM 718 @gmail.com.
Okay. So just again, folks, it's healing, HEALING, him, HIM 718 @gmail.com. And I'll put that in everything. So people, because we're forming this thing, and people will want to contact you. And,
Right.
I mean, I see that the podcast is essential. And I
Yeah.
also see that, I just see maybe this would be groups. Maybe
Yeah.
start with one group in Brooklyn at a high school. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, the possibilities are endless, and who knows what else, like what other things we can create through this. I'm not closed off to any idea. I'm open to it all, as long as it is sticking to the mission and on like, on brand to what I'm trying to do. But I would love to explore all kinds of different ideas with this, because there's so many spaces that this can go into and be beneficial. So like you said, a school. I mean, yeah, I just see so many different things for it. So I
Yeah.
hope, and I feel like it's gonna be something good, whether it's the podcast that blows up or another something that forms from the podcast. But I think this is the perfect start.
I just have like a vision. And the
Mhm.
vision would be that somebody that kids know would come along with you and
Mhm.
speak to the kids about whatever it is that they deserve, what they deserve in this
Right.
world, and what they should have, um and what they can expect more.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a man, and I'm not of color, but it just seems to me, for so many people, just giving them dreams and hopes.
Yeah. Yep. Just an opportunity to be heard or to be seen or recognized and to noticed. Everybody likes to be noticed. Even the shyest person or the introvert, like we like to feel that people notice us. And I think that will help too. There's so many benefits that can come from this, and just when you're better from the inside, it's just will reflect on the outside. And I just really want to be a part of that and be part of that movement. And I feel like that's like kind of my calling. Like I've never felt this passionate about something and wanting to just give myself completely to this movement like this. So it's important to me that I like carry this through and take it as far as I can.
Well, you will. There's no question. Would you be able to speak in public? I mean, do you think like if there's a gym full of kids, would you be comfortable doing that?
I think I'm capable, yeah, very capable of doing that. And there's little things that I want to like practice or whatever, but
Yeah,
um yeah.
You
If
know,
I think
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I think if I see the importance of it, I will always just get over the shyness and go for it.
And also, I just want to remind you all to Dominic Santiago. Also, you know more about this than anybody. I used to work on home shopping television like QVC, and
Mhm.
I'd be sitting there and like a vendor with jewelry would come and sit next to me and he said, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous." And I said, "Nobody knows more about this than you.
Right.
In the whole universe, you're the expert on this kind of jewelry." And that's why you standing up in front of these kids, you're gonna light a light in their hearts and their souls.
Yeah, with kids, I definitely I love kids. I love to like
Yeah.
inspire the young minds and be a part of that. So yeah, I think I'll be able to do that. And that's such a helpful word to you saying like I know I'm the expert in it or I know what it is.
I mean, because healing him is something that it's like should have been there already. It's like you discovered something that's a real
Yeah.
thing.
And when have been doing my research and looking for other podcasts and stuff, there's not really anything like it right now. I mean, there's men's mental health. A lot of them are more so based in like the UK. And there's not many like American, because I feel like, you know, in America, we have different issues, there's different problems and stuff. And, but I haven't seen really anything through like the Spotify, Apple, or podcasts, any of those. So I hope that this starts a trend or like that gives me more opportunity to just be successful in it.
And just to keep growing it. I mean, I could see you speaking in front of kids and giving them like self-care, meaning self-respect.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing that a lot of men I feel don't realize the self-respect and self-love that we have to give ourselves. I there's just it's I think there's just the lack of knowledge of that, of loving yourself and respecting yourself and what that really means and how that really can help and what that can really impact in your life and the people around you. It's
I
just
think I think a lot of us don't
yeah.
that self-love you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Sometimes we forget. We forget that like we need to that's a must. It's a must because it just definitely determines a lot in your life. It determines a lot in the outcome of your life and how you do things and the interactions you have with people, relationships that you have with people. And it's very apparent when someone doesn't love themselves and the things that they'll allow to happen to them in their lives. And I mean, you know, not everything you're in control of, but I think there's a lot of people out there is lacking self-love and respect.
There is, and I mean, you're not like you said. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist. I mean, I'm not that, but I know what it takes, even just to remind people of it.
Mhm.
Just to be
Yeah.
that person who said it's okay for you to want this, or it's support.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of you know, I noticed in my communities of like when you want to strive for more and when you want something that's more than or better than what your current situation, it can be frowned upon. And it could be like and I think that's just a lot of fear and self-hate just being projected onto the next person of like they can't see it for themselves, so there's no way you can accomplish that, or like why do you think you deserve that and no one else does? And it's like it's not about I mean, anyone else in those moments of when it comes to self-care and self-love and self-respect. And it's so easy to just fall out of love with yourself and not realize that you fell out of love with yourself, and that you're not respecting yourself or giving yourself the most that you deserve. And that I think society has a lot of influence on that, especially for men of color, because it's just, there's a lot of negative things surrounding that as far as loving yourself and just feeling good about yourself in this society and in this world.
You make such an impact on people's lives. A lot of people have never even thought about all this or heard about all this.
Yeah.
It's just, I remember I used to live on the Upper West Side, and I remember I used to walk to the subway, and I would walk to the subway, and there was always like a bunch of older teenagers, 18, 19, 20, like that. And it would be early in the morning or whatever, and they'd be smoking a joint, which, I don't have a problem with that, but they'd be standing around. And I remember someone said to me, why are they standing there? Why aren't they working? I said, they probably don't have a clue how to go out and get the right kind of job, how to write a resume. They probably don't have a clue. You think they'd rather stand in the cold and smoke a joint and it's 9:30? And then what? They need a role model. I mean, that particular group, it used to hurt me to see them.
Yeah, because there's just a lot of misguidance. There's a lot of just people just not having the education and not like the knowledge of knowing that there's help out there, or that they can go about it this way, or just the process of how to obtain something. Most things are obtainable as if you know how to apply yourself to the system to get it there, or to get there. And there's just a lot of there's just a lack of education and knowledge in that for a lot of people in the Black and brown communities. And
yeah, there's
a lot of need.
Anybody help them in school? No, there's no advocates. This would be the place.
I mean, it really, I feel like it always starts at home. And unfortunately, there's a lot of broken homes and a lot of parents that don't know, and they're just grown-ups with kids that are still children themselves, and just still don't know how to really navigate life, but of how they were shown. There's like generational, all that, like just generational curses, and so I think there's it's kind of always been like that. I feel like lately I've been feeling I'm a lot more not as lenient as I used to be, as far as people not knowing things or being ignorant to something, just because we live in the age of the internet and Google, and anything is accessible. But then you realize even something as simple as that, and which is basic in our lives, kids don't even have access to the internet. And that was during the pandemic. A lot of those issues were that arose from that people didn't really realize that there's what's lacking out there. I mean, something as basic as the internet, and we kind of need that now to function in society and to get our work done. And as much as we can want to fight it or go, think we don't need it, but it really is a key to success now. Like it's something that's
a guy named Curtis Sliwa. Do you know who he is?
No.
So Curtis Sliwa might have been in a gang, but somewhere or other he said, I want to be a guardian angel for people in this community. And he formed, like, they wore berets and T-shirts.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with that group.
Yeah. And they're guardian angels. And when you talk about kids not having the internet, I mean, you almost think it's just everywhere. You just, but how does that make them feel? What does that
Yeah,
have to do for their future?
right. And the limited access that they have to the world when the world is literally at your fingertips through the internet, and they're really confined to just their environment and how just, I mean, yeah, I don't know if damaging is the right word, but it is kind of just
Well,
like it holds them back from a lot and it doesn't give them a fair opportunity. I mean, granted, there's internet access other places, but just yeah, it's like one of those things that you don't realize that we probably take for granted. You know, because we're able to have it, but there's a lot of people who don't, and just the daily functions of the internet. There's a lot of things that I would not be able to accomplish in my daily tasks without the internet. So,
this interview.
right. Yeah. Yep.
What?
It's important.
Let's just dream. Um, Again, we're talking to Dominic Santiago, and I'm so glad we're doing this. And
Me
he
too.
has developed a group and a thought, but it's called Healing, HEALING, 718 at gmail.com. Let's dream here. How could we? So you're going to do your podcast, which is so well done. I mean, it's so true and it's so alive and it's so honest and humble. It's just not a big BS thing.
Thank you.
Oh, it is. It's so great. And the people you interview are men, and we're talking about healing the men of color. I mean, it can be guys who are white as well. I mean, but how do you see you're going to if you were going to reach out to somebody,
Mhm.
who would you reach out to?
Um, just the everyday man. Just the everyday man. I also want to show people that, like, just because we come from different backgrounds and different upbringings, that we can still find a commonality to, like, be kind to each other and just be respectful of each other's lifestyles. And because I wanted to expose, I have people in my family, like in-laws, that necessarily probably wouldn't be comfortable with being around gay men and just all of that. But I've always gotten that respect, and I'm able to have conversations in it. And my interactions don't have to surround or my lifestyle or my sexual preference doesn't dominate our interaction or like our conversation. It's not always about that. And I want to expose that you can be comfortable in who you are and still interact with other men that are not like you, and just to see that, you know, under all of those labels of that we put on each other, we're all hurting the same. We all need this healing. We all can, you know what I mean? We can all benefit from it. And it's, why not help each other with that? So I also want to, like, create some kind of, you know, just these relationships that typically wouldn't happen. But once you see that how much alike you are, once you remove all the things that don't matter, like the labels and all of that, that you can have a bond with someone and it not be like inappropriate, or it doesn't
No,
have to
I
be,
hear
you know.
absolutely.
'Cause I think that's something that's lacking or people don't realize either.
It's really bold of you to do this. I don't think you feel you have any choice.
Now, no.
No
No,
choice.
I don't. I don't want there to be a choice. I want it to this, like, I have to do this. No matter how long it takes or no matter what, like, this is something that I want to be a part of my life from here on out. Like, it's something that's important to me. However it is done. But yeah, I didn't realize, I just thought it would be something that was already saturated, and people were talking about, but now that I have done my research and seen that there's not too many people talking about stuff like this, it's even more exciting and more motivating to be able to put something out there that can be beneficial.
So it's healing him.
Yeah.
Um, have you had people, this is the worst word to use for this, but like poo-poo it? I mean, have you had people say, "Oh, stop it. Who cares?" Or have you
Surprisingly, I have not yet. But
really?
I don't think I would ever be the one to encounter that. I mean, I'm not to
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that I won't, but I think if it gets to a certain level, then of course through the internet and trolling and all that, then I'm sure someone has gonna have to say something. But as far as the people that I know that have listened to it, um, it really excited people and really like made them start thinking of their own stuff. And um, so yeah, I haven't really gotten anything negative except just me myself of just criticizing and
Oh,
just doing what we do to ourselves. So yeah, there's a lot of I don't want to come off as egotistical or thinking that I'm just the savior for anybody, or like I want to carefully put that out there and just not. I don't want anyone to think that I'm the new Gandhi, or like
no,
you
I
know
know. But everything started with somebody. Everything
right,
started with someone saying, like you said, I'm not a therapist, but you know what you don't want, and you know what doesn't feel right, and you know that
mhm,
even acknowledging that people have been abandoned, abused,
right,
ignored, irrelevant, not feeling they even mattered in this world, that just acknowledging that and someone else saying, yeah, me too.
right, yeah, and just getting that strength from one another, and just realizing that you don't have to be stuck in the box that like society has put you in, and it is okay for you to explore another side of yourself. That doesn't make you less of a man. And I want to change like the idea of what like quote unquote a real man is, and what is the idea of what a man is. There's so many of these like toxic ideas and of what we are as men. And some of the traditional thoughts of men, I feel like are, I mean, I don't know, traditional, but like we are what we are. So there's certain things that like that's just in us, but it doesn't have to be the way that people perceive what a man should be. Like the provider, the strong one, the one to always just like do the heavy lifting and all that. Like it just, because there's a lot of men that are not like that, and there's a lot of men that don't know how to provide, but they are amazing in something else, or have a partner that doesn't mind them not being the provider and just having that stereotypical male role.
Yeah, my daughter told me something. Yeah, last time we were driving, and she said she has a friend whose husband really is not the biggest money earner. He's a painter. He's an artist. And
Yeah,
he pretty much cooks, and he takes care of the kids, and he paints, and his financial contribution is not a big deal, but she allows it, she respects it.
yeah,
Some
whatever
of us,
works.
are better than others at that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And just if a man were to ever complain about, or to vent about having to like take care of everything, people would not let that go. Like that man will be criticized and just talked about,
Right.
and I don't think that's fair, like for men to be able to like express themselves in that way. That's a lot of pressure. They're gonna need some kind of outlet. And
Right.
I think that we should be able to just discuss what is hurting us and what is making us feel bad without having to feel bad for feeling bad. Like, it's
Someone said something. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
okay, fine.
Okay, is it okay? Someone said something in your podcast. It
Mm,
was great, that podcast. And this man said, and you correct me, he said, women don't know they have an option. They just think when they come home, they're going to clean, they're going to cook, they're going to take care of this, they're going to take care of this. And guys think they might have an option. Well, I don't really want to do that. I don't know. I'm not speaking for
no,
guys, but when they said that, I thought, I get that. I get what he's saying.
Yeah. Women do not even imagine a different option. Like, I think we're talking about just being mothers and taking care of the kids, and um, how men are just able to go off and do whatever they want. They're not gonna have the same guilt and pressure as the woman. I feel like naturally as a mother, I mean, that's me, outsiders looking in, but I can't speak as a mother, but I feel like that's what I received from my mother. I've never felt that she even looked at an alternative of what it was that she was, the way she provided for us, and her having to be there and just making sure that we were taken care of. And with men, there's a detachment from that. But there's also, I think society kind of helps that too, and allows, like, you don't worry about the kids or any of that stuff. Like, you just go to work and you make sure you just provide the money and all of that. So there's a disconnect, but it's also kind of supported, I feel like, in society in a weird way.
In a weird way, it is. It is. And that's why my daughter and I were talking about it. Do you think it's getting better?
I think it's getting better. Yeah, I think people are getting more accepting of like an alternative way to handle family life. Like you were explaining of that couple who the husband's a painter and takes care of home. And, I think that's, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's just important for the parents to be there, whether one can provide more or not. But I would rather have had my dad be Mr. Mom at home rather than just not being there, and just showing that he was in it with us and he was there to support us no matter what. Like, we're in it together. I think when you experience that kind of love and upbringing, it's just a different way of life for you. And there's just a different fulfillment that you have.
But then, society is a pain in the ass.
Yes.
A lot of times they're really bad. I'm talking about my daughter so much, but she was telling me that there's a school in Brooklyn,
mm-hmm.
and they're very, 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 they current with racial inequity.
Mm-hmm.
And they teach the kids, and they're up to date as to the real world and the accomplishments, right, of people of every color. But this was a really interesting thing. One of the schools insisted that the parents take these classes too.
Oh, that's really good. I think it's good. I think that it's important for you to know what your child is learning and like what you're going through, and having the same ideas of how you should be in society, and especially dealing with other cultures, and if you're not really aware, and especially in Brooklyn, it's such a gentrified area, and there's such a mix of people, and I see that there's a level of kind of like disrespect to the people who were originally here, and just it's like we are here to change things, not to come together and exist amongst, like, with each other and learn from each other. It's, we're here now, so let's do it this way. And I think there's it just creates a bad energy, I feel like.
And I think that's a lot of it. We can't just say that some of these fathers or mothers or they don't care, and it doesn't work that way. These people have been just stripped of their humanity, and over and over and over, and that's why I think what you're doing is essential, and it's brave. You're brave.
Thank you. I never really looked at it that way, but I think you're right. It is essential. Because when you're born into survival, you don't have time, and you don't create time. Not that you don't have time, but it's kind of, you don't feel like you can create time to even do that because you're so worried about surviving. And when you're worried about the food, the shelter and clothes, and those bare necessities that we need, and that's the only thing that you can really like focus on, what life are you really living, and how much self-care are you really going to take the time out to give yourself? And and
You
just
know,
life keeps on going for people, and they, by the time they know it, they have great grandchildren who are doing the same thing. Like,
that's just it, because maybe we can say they don't have the tools. They were never given the tools.
right. Yeah, and if you aren't given the tools or are taught, then how, you know what I mean? What do you what do you expect the outcome to be? Um, I feel like probably statistically I should be doing a lot worse than where I am in life.
Right.
Just the environment I grew up in, coming from a single mother and all of that. But yeah, I just thank God that like my mom had the knowledge and tools or she provided us with the tools of how to be and how to like just be good people. Um,
She's a good person.
yes, she is. She's an amazing person. She is.
What's she like? Tell me.
She is very funny. Mom is very funny and really sweet. But she can have like a dry sense of humor sometimes. So, I think that's where I get that my sense of humor from.
Right.
So she just is she's really just a good time and like a sweet person, like very caring and kind. She's definitely where I learned how to treat other people and just be a nice person, just to be a good person all the time. Like no matter what, just try to be a good person. And that's kind of just what she has always taught us. And to
You are, and she's right, and you are. And I met you, and you touched me with this healing hymn, and I want to pass this on. I mean, and I want people listening to understand that this is the beginning of a movement, and any ideas and anything you can, maybe you're a high school counselor, I don't know, and say, hey, why don't you come once a month and do, I don't know what, with LeBron James, I don't know.
Whoever listens to this, I'm open to any ideas, and just that, like I said, the possibilities are endless, and there's no set thing. Like I'm not restricting myself to just one thing, and I would like to just explore any ideas that I can with this. However to get the message out there, however to get that movement going.
But it's Healing Him. And we're talking about taking people from, do you want to say men of color? I think so. I think it's pretty specific.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's something that's really important to me, because when I am a man of color, and I see how different it is in society for men of color versus not men of color, white men. And I just think it's something that we deserve to have. We deserve to have a space that is safe and that we can express ourselves or just get ideas from, that will inspire other men to just heal and love on themselves, and to figure out what it is to have self-respect and self-love, and that it's not a man or a woman thing to love yourself and to self-care and take care of yourself in that way. It's so
wouldn't hurt for you to make like a PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, but like the 10 things that,
like 10 rules of healing him.
Whatever. But just to sit down, because as we're talking, I can think, well, you're saying self-respect and self-love, and people could go by it, but you just say, oh yeah. But wouldn't it be nice if you looked in the mirror and said, maybe stuff wasn't great, but I think there's a better world out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I went through that. I'm still going through the realization of how much like the lack of self-respect I once had, and this lack of self-love that I had. And I had no idea. I had no idea that like me doing certain things or accepting certain things from people was a sign of a lack of love or lack of self-respect. And once that I realized that, and first of all, it was like almost devastating to realize, because you think you have it going on, you think you have this or that, and you think you don't realize the impact that it has once you realize, like, damn, I probably should not have let that person do that or made me feel that way, or I should have advocated for myself more. And that's another thing I want to inspire men to really know how to advocate for themselves, especially the young boys, and just learning how to advocate for themselves, and like that they are also entitled to the basic things that everyone else is entitled to.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important because a lot of young men don't know that. A lot of young men and women don't know that. And yeah, I just think that men have a lot of power in taking the lead on things. And I think that we could just be so much better to our female counterparts. And, and we deserve that, like, on both ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important. That's really important.
Sometimes, I'll be judgmental about somebody, and I'll say, "Oh yeah," to her, and what is that? Why not like them? I mean, they're not going to hurt you, or they're. And you, but what is it walking down the street that you? Oh yeah, right, or someone driving, or I don't know what, but just anger and resentment. I once heard that, they talk about mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? And mindfulness has to do with being mindful to have a beautiful day, like this moment that you and I are having now, and people are listening, and I lit a candle next to us. But that's mindful. Yeah. And that's mindful. And I heard somebody say, you can't be mindful when you're jealous and resentful and you have animosity. You can't be having a lovely day. You can't.
Right.
So get over it.
Yeah,
I'm the number one person. I hate that.
I feel like that stems from the lack of self-love and self-respect, because when you love yourself and you know what you have to offer and you're secure in who you are and all of that, I feel like you don't really recognize other people's flaws, because I think I feel like when people are like that, it's them mirroring what they have an issue with themselves. And
yes.
I think because you have to know that about yourself to notice it about someone else, I feel like.
100%.
So, and I feel like this lack of self-love and respect, you'll make that an issue when really it doesn't matter, like what someone looks like or what they have on or how they wear their clothes or whatever. And if someone is a certain way, or if they're angry or whatever, I think a lot of people also don't take the time to ask why. Like, no one wants to know why things are the way they are. They just want to criticize that the way they are.
Yeah.
And, like, if you take your time to really try to understand why something is the way it is, it changes the whole perception of how you might look at that person. And I think a lot of people need to do more of that and understand why within yourself too. Like, why do I talk about people all the time? Or like,
what am I doing? I'm thinking, do you have a Instagram account with Healing Him?
Yes, I do. It's Healing Him Podcast.
Oh, okay.
On Instagram.
So let's just talk again, because I'm still thinking here that I would love to see, even if it's 6 things about Healing Him.
Yeah, I know. I have to create some kind of.
I think so.
Like,
or have someone help you.
Yeah. If there's anyone listening that has some ideas.
Yeah,
something like the four agreements, or like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just think, even if you write 10 things and only 5 of them matter. I do Reiki. Do you know what Reiki is?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so I'm a Reiki master. And Mr. Asui, Mikao Asui, who really, he didn't found hands-on healing, but he made it into something called Reiki, and it's a most beautiful thing. But he had certain things like, do not be angry, and work hard, and don't judge other people. And just, It sounds silly, but it's vital. And I think even if you even like I'm trying to come up with the tenets of this, guys. If someone wants to help me, because I think that would really be, and it doesn't have to be carved in stone. You can change it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I mean, that's another thing to add on to my list of creating some kind of pamphlet or education on healing. Like, yeah, no, that's a really great idea. I think I'm really gonna do something with that. Thank you.
Because we've been sitting and talking, and I know that we talked about self-love, we talked about self-respect, we talk about people having expectations, we talk about people letting go, we've been talking about having dreams, and like we're saying, and and someone will come along and say, hey, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? Right. It's a good start.
Yeah, because I really want people to just believe in themselves and know that they do deserve these things. They do deserve more than what they are told by maybe the limited thinking that they're around. I know for me, when I moved to New York from California, it was like people were supportive, of course, like they want to support you, but they also don't realize that that when they project their fears onto you, that it's like very discouraging and just doesn't help to move along and to do better. And I think people need to be aware of that too, of just like keep negative comments to yourself.
So that's one. I mean, that's like that's one of your things. Keep negative comments to yourself. I mean, and don't judge somebody. Don't be hard on someone. Well, all of these things you're going to see, and you'll have like 10 things, and it'll be, are you writing it down?
Yeah. It'll be just like, not the code to life, but just a guide to help keep you in check and keep you accountable to your healing. And
I'm sure I'm just going to look it up because if we say the word tenets, TENETS, I don't know that a lot of people use that word all the time, but I'm going to look up tenets and see if there's another word that you can call them. It's a belief or principle, especially one of the main principles of religion or philosophy, the tenets of a democratic society. And it's just a belief. You could say it's our beliefs, a principle, belief, or doctrine generally held to be true, one held in common by members of an organization, movement, or, it really, or organization or profession, but their doctrines, their beliefs. And I think that's great.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I'm going to really explore that, because I think that just would help with it'll just help with just presenting what the mission is for this. And that's
you can say our mission is to follow these beliefs. I mean, if we're looking for words, I just want to make sure we're like over an hour. This has been so wonderful. So we're going to tell everybody it's healing, HEALING, him, HIM.
Yes.
718 at Gmail.
Right.
And also, if you want to go to, I'm going to go now and I'm going to sign up, subscribe to your Healing Him podcast.
Yes.
And that's your Instagram.
Yes.
Well, you're on your way now.
No, I need help. But
again, if you want to,
yes, I would love to.
Yeah.
And when it launches and put all the episodes, launch all the episodes, we can have a recap of.
Yeah, we can. So everybody, there is a really, really good, and it's really interesting first podcast, and it's Healing Him, 718 at gmail.com. But To go to the podcast, what do we do?
You can go through Anchor, Spotify, Apple. Like it's on all the platforms.
Great.
So you just type in Healing Him. I believe that's the only one on
It
there.
does come. I looked it up that way.
Okay. Yeah.
So, by the way, the artwork you have for Healing Him is really beautiful. You could put those beliefs in there somewhere, but that looks good.
On my Instagram, I kind of did something like that, where I used the graphics from there. Yeah, it was a client of mine's husband, Derek Whitfield. He designed those for me, and it's like the radio waves, and there's meaning in all the colors and all of that.
So if I went right now to Instagram and I go to the thing and I'll go Healing Him, and everybody do the same thing. Oh, this is so fantastic. This is the beginning of something so important. Healing Him and Healing Him podcast.
Found it.
And I'm going to follow Mental Health Silence, Healing Him podcast coming soon. Masculinity doesn't have to be toxic. Let's normalize healing. Just fantastic. So I'm following it. And you've got a lot. You've got a lot of followers already. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It feels really good to be able to talk about it and get it out there.
Yeah. But if you want to call me in a week and say we're working on this or working on that, we can do this again. I know people that are very interested, and I'm going to actually send it to them.
Okay. Yeah.
It does its little thing. And could you send me a picture? I shouldn't say that I'm talking, but send me a picture. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to.
Yeah, and it helps to think things out, and you'll see.
Oh, it feels good too to just hear the reaction and just it's just inspiring. And thank you for the.
This is the beginning for you. It's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You look great. You look happy.
I am.
So I look outside and I see what are you on Flatbush? It's raining. It's great. Yeah. Summer is coming.
I know. I can't wait. I can't wait for summer.
I cannot wait for just a ray of sunlight here.
Right.
Healing Him. HEALING him. HIM. 718@gmail.com. Or you can go to the podcast. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.